Hey guys, welcome back to the Unfrazzled Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we're chatting with my pastor friend Peter Miner. He has a smaller church in Florida and he came to us because he was overwhelmed. Here's our interview with Peter. Yeah, tell me about what you need. Let me pull up that list that you sent me.
Yeah. Well, when I was watching, I listened to the podcast and my wheels were spinning, like, man, yeah, this could really help me. I'm not in a place where I can just hire, a secretary or whatever
Right.
for 15, 18 bucks an hour.
Uh-huh.
We don't have the budget for it.
Yeah.
And so between the church and my business, I was thinking, wow, I'm already used to VA supplying me. And then my mind got thinking about all that you were saying in the podcast. And I thought, what if I could figure out how to have a virtual assistant who just helped me in life with a lot of things that aren't necessarily connected all business,
Sure. Yeah.
Church business, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm very open to the idea, but I don't really even know how to gauge the cost on that yet. Sure. And I read your model about how you guys treat them well, you give them their holidays off, and you try to treat them full time so that they can rely on a steady income, which I think is commendable, to be honest. I mean, that's pretty cool. So,
Okay.
So anyway, I think is there anybody doing this that's a pastor yet?
I mean, there's lots of pastors that have VAs, but not from us. We literally, I talked to a friend of mine in Indiana who's a pastor, and he's interested in doing it. I think what's probably going to end up happening, depending on the size of the church and budget and stuff, it may end up being one VA that works with several churches. And you kind of just share time.
That would make sense along the way.
Yeah. So if a larger church with a larger budget could handle a VA all to themselves, and smaller church may need to share it with somebody, and that's cool.
Right.
We're okay with that. So
I'll give you an example. Today, I had this lady who says, Pastor, we need the bulletin, the monthly bulletin, because I was the place where the person who was doing, I don't have a lot of tech savvy people or even computer savvy people, and so I didn't really have anybody doing the weekly bulletin. And my wife said, why don't we just move to a monthly bulletin? And at least it's just once a month. You don't have to do it every week because it's a time consumer. I hate it,
Yeah.
And so I moved to a version of just online only. And then, we need a piece of paper, So anyway, I went back to paper, but I did it in Canva, which is so easy for me and it's nice. So I just make it once. I do it in Canva, and it's kind of fun. I like it doing it, but I don't want to give the time to doing it because it's tedious to me. I don't do it every day. I do it once a month.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm doing that today, and it's eating up 3 hours of my time already.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, and I'm not even done.
Yeah.
I just, so that's something I need.
Sure.
I need somebody that can maybe help me with social media posts that are ongoing, somebody that can tweak my sermon when it's done and push it out. But somebody to help me out with a lot of different, and I think it's got to be kind of like, I'm not used to having that person. So that's where a consistent person is helpful versus this person this week and that person that week.
Yes. Right. It would be a consistent person. Yes.
Right. Until at least I get a rhythm of, I know what I'm expecting someone to do and they know what's expected of them, so that even if it's not the same person, the rhythm has then been established.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you feel like are your biggest pain points right now? The ones that, because the Amazon stuff would probably be a different VA than the church stuff. And that's okay. It probably wouldn't be the same person for sure. But on
I
the
think
church
the church
side,
might even pay for it if I could nail it. If I can nail it down to, hey, listen, I got somebody that's doing all this stuff and this is what it's costing me, they might pick it up. but I need to establish it and get it rolling, and I'm willing to
Okay.
personally pay for it until
Sure.
I can evaluate that it's worth it, because I need to be
Yeah.
freed up.
Yeah. So is it basically just those items on your list that you mark as a CH? Are those the biggest pain points? The newsletter, the bulletin, editing videos, and
Making flyers was another one. That was a CH underneath. I don't enjoy, but I'm good at. Writing grants would be another. I got this grant that I need to start writing. And if somebody was like going through the criteria for me, they could just be emailing me, hey, can you supply me this so I can get it put in the grant? You know, I mean, that could be, I got a grant, a company we've gotten a grant from before, because we have our need to do new roofing. So I need to get a grant in for a roof.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can supply the info. I just don't want to deal with the format and filling it in. It's
Is that an easy, is that something that pretty much anybody could do? Like, would you do one video showing, here's how I'm going to sit down and do this grant? This goes here, this goes here. Like, how would you train somebody on that?
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's from, this one particular grant is not that difficult.
Okay.
I think if they had questions, then I could do that. If they didn't have questions, then they would just do it and keep corresponding with me. But I need to get it rolling, you know.
Okay. Nice.
So that's one. And then, you know, like my church website, I need somebody that's also creatively thinking outside the box for me too. That's kind of like, hey, Pastor, what do you think about doing this idea on your website? Oh, you know, even though they're from the Philippines, they could be thinking and helping me be creative. I need some input, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not a mandatory thing. Sure. I mean, I get the task, you know, here's the task, do it, get paid. You know?
Yeah.
And as far as like writing art, I really like to write, but I'm terrible at grammar. So if I could just like do some stuff and then just shoot it at someone and they just kind of clean it up.
Yep.
So that it's publishable.
Okay.
That would be another need. That's probably under I enjoy, but I'm not good at. So there's like, if I'm looking at the top right, I got 1, 2, 3 things there. The bottom left, there's 3 things there. And then the bottom right is 1 thing there.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just a start. I tried to work on this a couple weeks ago when it first came up, and I messed with it yesterday a little bit more. Thought I'd send it to you so we could be productive in this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, probably the next step would just be
testing it,
finding somebody and testing it out, and just do an hourly thing where there's we're probably looking at like $6 to $8 an hour. And so you could just, you know, give them a task, and, you know, eventually they're going to get better and better at it. So it's going to take less and less time. And at any point you're like, no, this is not worth it. We'll just either get a new VA or just say, no, this is it. We're done. Test over. But it turns into something, then we can invite, you know, somebody else, say, hey, this is working. Got one pastor doing this. Now the VAs become really efficient on these processes. Do you need these things done? And then essentially the VA would just track time for each church and tell me, and then we would just bill you for that VA's time just for you. I think that's probably the easiest way to start, just to try it out.
Well, I you know, .ph, onlinejobs.ph, I went there years ago from another thing I learned, and I ended up hiring some school teacher. She's a Christian lady, and she was great, man. I mean, we chatted video at times. That was really helpful. So you could talk to your VA personally, and they could kind of hear your heart and not just.
Yes. And you could do that too. If you want to get on a Zoom call with them, I think on, like, especially if this is the first test, it might, like, me and you would get on a Zoom call together. Yeah, but yeah,
I need to be able to give them access to different things. You know, they need access to my website. I need to add them to my social media sites.
Exactly.
You know, so if you're working, are you working like an agency?
That's what we're gonna be doing. Yeah.
So that if instead of like rotating with different VAs, could I just have the same email they're all using accessing?
Yeah. So it would be, I mean, it's going to be one VA that works on your, well, okay. So it depends on your tasks. Like if you need the person that helps with a website may or may not be the same person that does the newsletter and stuff. I got to figure that out.
That's not what I mean. What I mean is if I used a common email address for the website, whoever's doing it uses the same credentials to log in.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, we could do it that way then.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if I just wanted to nix the whole program, then I would just nix that one access.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. The other option is to use a program called LastPass, which is pretty sweet. It's nobody ever sees your, so if you come across like a software that you can't create a new account for somebody, like a user account, you may have to give them your account, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to give them your username and password. You can use LastPass to create their own login for that site. Like, for example, if you ever got to the point where that VA was buying flowers for a family that lost somebody, and that you had a church credit card that they had access to, and they needed to have access to that card, you may not want them to have the actual username and password for that credit card account. Right. With LastPass, you can set it up to where they could get access to it, but it's their own username and password for that site that doesn't allow user accounts. So it's pretty cool. It's what a lot of people are doing for VAs in the Amazon space, like with, their Amazon account, or well, Amazon has user account access, but just any site that you just don't want them to have your actual login, you can go through LastPass.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's an option too. But
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. There's some other things that I've been just thinking about that have been really drawing my attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the podcast was really, really well done, and it really spoke to me about.
Yeah. Well, Steven's the one that he was on the podcast. The one that might be joining us was the one on the podcast that you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because he, you guys are talking about, well, if you can teach somebody to do what you do so that you can do something else, then that's good. That you're like multiplying your time.
Exactly.
And I've just burned out, man. I just got to find somebody to do stuff for me that I don't want to do anymore, even though it has to be done.
Yeah.
And, so as far as like, I think my priority would start to be the church more than it would be the Amazon stuff, but there's definitely a need for the online stuff that's different as well.
All right, Steven joins here. Hey,
how you doing? Sorry,
Steven, this is Peter.
What's going on, Peter?
And he listened to our podcast episode and loved it. And he's a pastor in Florida, and I think you're on the east side of the.
Yeah, I'm near Daytona Beach.
Okay, so Steven's over in St. Petersburg. So on the other side of the state. Yeah. But so I sent you the form he filled out with his needs. You may not have a chance to look at it yet, but he has an Amazon business too, but his main things are things like editing for the church side, making newsletters, bulletins, flyers, editing videos, writing grants, and writing articles. Like he said, he loves to write, but is not good with grammar.
Yeah, like if I could just do dictation to a Microsoft Word document, then instead of taking the time to clean it up, I just shoot it over to somebody and they could,
Totally.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then, as far as like Canva, that would be helpful but I really would like to be able to talk to this person.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it can't just be like, remote only through email. I got to have some kind of connection so they can hear my heart, kind of know what I'm after, or they can suggest things to me. And
we definitely would do that. You'd have access to them. You could get on a Zoom call anytime you want to with them. But also I communicate back and forth a lot with either Skype or Facebook Messenger. So you could have that tech stack. Like you may not always want to get on a Zoom call. It's time consuming, but you want something faster than email. So Skype and Facebook Messenger works really well for that.
I do know one thing. If I can model this and it really is good for me, I know a lot of pastors that are in my shoes
Yeah.
that might
Okay.
really gravitate toward this. I mean, I
Okay.
really do. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's where, I wouldn't mind helping people out. And if I can get a cut out of that
for sure.
referral, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all good,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But it's got to work in my world. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm excited about it. Now, how many do you have? Just a few VAs that you have real solid confidence in that are building the
Yeah.
team
So,
for you?
with the legendary VA program, we get a lot of VAs that try Amazon and like, just, this is not for me. It's tedious. Looking for profitable products it's a learning curve, as you know. Like, imagine if you had to learn Amazon all over again. We're training these VAs how to source profitable products, but for some of them, it's not a fun job. They don't enjoy it. So we have a lot of VAs I can go to and say, I already have a couple of VAs in mind for this particular program, but we have a large pool of VAs I can go to, and I need somebody for this, and somebody will just raise their hand and we'll interview them or give them a test project, see how they go. The other thing too is that Steven and I just partnered up with a company called Ripple VAs. They're in the Philippines. They're a mission, they're an organization. They want to plant churches. And so they're hiring other VAs, and they even make them like go to church and stuff. It's pretty strict. But the goal is to get them saved. And so they've allowed us to white label their program. So for like tasks that I may not have a VA for in our pool of legendary VAs, I can just go to them and they already have the VA service, and we can call it our own, essentially. So we got, all to say is we got lots and lots and lots of VAs that we can potentially pull from for this. But we just need a test. We just need a guinea pig to, let's test this out and let's figure it out and then perfect it and then move forward and launch it to others. But yes, we have lots and lots of VAs to pull from.
Wow, that's exciting. I do know we're dealing with a 12-hour time zone, right?
Well, for you, it's 12, me 13. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're pretty flexible. Most of the VAs that we've talked to are pretty flexible. And Ryan says he gets on the calls with them during regular business hours. I always tried to adjust my schedule to get on at like 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, because it's not.
Yeah, I remember that from before. I still have this VA that's like a friend of my Facebook thing still, who was my VA for a while, and she's like a school teacher. So like in the summer, she's unemployed. That's where I picked her up. But when she went back to school, she dropped off because she couldn't keep up with me, and I kind of lost it there.
Yeah.
But, that's pretty cool. Hey, did you guys? This is a different subject, but sort of related for me. The guy named Stu
McLaren.
Yeah. Did I find him through you that does the membership thing? Or is that...
Maybe I've talked about him, but not as much. And my other friend, I don't know Stu personally. I signed up for his. I have his course. I went through his tribe course. It's really good. I just like Shane Sam's a whole lot better. That's just more my style. He has another membership community that teaches people how to have membership communities.
Right. Well, I mean, on a related note, so it's like I really like that membership concept. I didn't do it with Stu. It was a little pricier it was a pricier thing for me for the time I got that I don't have yet to give to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a VA helping me, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I would really like,
You need to get your time back.
I do. I mean, I need time, man. And so if I could have done a whole lot more with 3 hours today working on this crazy monthly thing that could have taken a VA probably 25 minutes.
Yeah. He's working on his bulletin. He went from weekly bulletins to monthly, and he went to an online bulletin, and his church people were complaining they needed something on paper.
Can't buck tradition sometimes, buddy. Our church goes to the same thing sometimes. It's just like we have an app now, and people are like, "Oh, we like the old way of doing it." It's just like, this is crazy.
Steven, yeah. So once a month, I get this email, Pastor, we need it today, so we can mail it. They mail it to people.
They mail it. Wow.
They mail it. People like mail. And then they read it because it's not just another piece of paper. Apparently, I don't know. I don't.
Man.
So I make it. They mail it, but I
know,
got
a VA could totally take that off your hands.
Yeah. So so anyway, the membership thing, I'm really interested in doing a teaching for online people that need to make extra money doing online businesses. So I've just modeled out something on my own based on listening to Stu, not joining his thing.
Sure.
But I would really like to do something that maybe even targets pastors that need to make extra money. But I don't have the time to do a membership club because I got too many things. So because you and I talked a little bit about, could you teach somebody about Facebook marketplace for selling? Remember that?
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking, I just need to have a club. I need a membership club. But even if I only had 20 people a month, that's a great start,
Absolutely.
So, so where do I go from here, and how do I gauge the cost?
So I just need to find, knowing that now that I have your list, let me just find a VA or at the most two that can do all these. I think I can get one that can do all the church things.
Really?
Looking at this, I think so. I mean, editing video is fairly a common skill. When you say making video, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think if I could just make some raw footage and give it to somebody and say, make this look more productionable for the web, that would be helpful.
Okay. I mean, what kind of videos would they be?
Like, for instance, we got this family community day coming up that we want to promote. So if I could film myself talking about it, so I could have an ad on Facebook locally.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But have somebody kind of, put a little music backdrop in it.
Oh, sure.
So just a short ad, not like a full length 30-minute.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's easy. Yeah. The bulletins and newsletters.
But those are kind of random, those aren't every week,
Okay.
If they could use a program like Canva or Spark, something online, because it's just a shorter video. You said you had a VA already working for you. Do you have any SOPs, standard operating procedures, that you had her do, or it was just a conversation? You were like, hey, this week I need this. And
a few years. It was more week to week conversational. Yeah.
I think the only thing is the editing, because it is kind of a skill. Everything else on there seems like if it's not a whole bunch of editing, it seems like one person with some type of software just gets you something that you're looking for. So it's not like they have to have Adobe Premiere understanding. They can just go, oh, that short video, I can put it in here and use a template and jazz it up. If that's what you're looking for, then I think one VA should be able to do all of this. It might take a little back and forth. Like if you go, oh, I want this, and they don't fully understand what you're asking for, you might just have to address it. But if you've had a VA before, I'm assuming you kind of know.
I don't think my needs are going to necessarily be the same needs for another pastor. I mean, I know we're going to vary from what our needs are based on.
And the software that most pastors use seems wildly different too. That was another thing that I'm learning. Every pastor has their own software that they're using for the emails, for their website, for everything else that they're doing.
Yeah, I'll just say a nightmare I recently had. We hired some guy to make us a website. We went from one website to another. It was a horrible website. So we had staff meetings. What are we going to do? And I said, we just need to find another. Here, try this. So we found this company with logos that is called Faith Life.
Okay.
Faith Life has the software called Proclaim. And we've used Proclaim for 6 years. But Proclaim also has a website system so that whatever you do on Sunday can feed right over to the website. And it has bulletins, and it has a lot of diversity we haven't even gotten into yet. Well, I don't have the time to figure it all out, but I like it. Well, then when I finally signed up with it, they said, oh, well, we may be phasing out our websites. So I don't know if there's some kind of a buyout going in there, that they're not aggressively looking for new customers, but we'll service you, but we can't. You're in on the edge. Come on in if you want. So I get in there, and now I've got 2 domain names, one pointing this way and one pointing this way, and I'm stumped. My son can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. The old guy says, talk to your new people. And so there's times when I just need a real savvy technical person to help me with things that I just don't have, so I'm not sure how to work this out, but I was drawn to what you guys said in your podcast, and I'm willing to try to give it an adventure on the things that are not so difficult, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. I think I'd rather work into the tech stuff after I get a load off me.
Yep. That makes
Agree.
sense.
Yeah. So I'm your guinea pig.
Cool. Stephen, I told him we would just probably start out with an hourly thing. I'll find a VA, and then that VA will just send me, the invoice for the hours, and we'll just pass it on to him essentially. So,
but whatever this thing is tonight, that was more drawn to me than this. When you said, no, I still need a guinea pig.
Yes, definitely still need a guinea pig. Yeah, because I feel like you said, there's a lot of pastors that could use this, and we just have felt led to start something like this. So appreciate you stepping up.
Yeah, maybe clarification when we ask more pastors, because I think a lot of them are saying the same kind of thing, like writing, putting together agendas, editing, but I think maybe just clarity on like what website service are you using, what type of editing, the length of editing. I think maybe like a fill form specifically for pastors to go.
Well, let's work on this together over the course of time.
Okay.
And I think, like, I'm going to give you two examples of. I have a pastor friend of mine who pastors a church that runs 600-700. And then I have another pastor friend of mine that runs about 400. The guy who's running 400's got like 6-7 paid staff people in the office 5 days a week. Growing, healthy church, right? The other church is larger and only has 2 people paid staff, period.
Wow. So they're really
everybody
busy.
else is volunteers, and they did away with the whole concept of office. And they were like, let's just do remote, do your own stuff. And I said to that guy, I said, man, I really need to hire a secretary. And he says, no, you don't. Not with today's world. You just need to do everything on your own. And so to some degree, I would agree, but I don't have the time to do it all on my own.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the time because I want to be out talking to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not making a newsletter.
Praying with people. Yeah. Yeah. So we're last week of April. I'm gonna, whatever I finish today, all the stuff I've been doing for the last several months, it's all in Canva. I can just give somebody access to it.
Oh, that's
awesome. They can see what I've been doing, and then they can go, oh yeah, we can do that stuff. Just tell us, we'll get creative for that guy. And then that would be a good start. I don't have a problem doing that.
Okay. Awesome. I appreciate that. I'll get to work. We'll find somebody that be our guinea pig on the VA side. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think maybe just if you see those tasks that are repetitive, like making the bulletin or whatever, just think of it like an SOP, so that they go, oh, this is what they do, this is how they open it, this is how they start it. Something that we did a lot with our VAs was we did have Zoom calls. Sometimes it was just like, I can't stay up till 10 o'clock tonight, or I'm running at a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I would shoot a little video like this on Zoom and record it and then send it over to them and have them send a recording back. I like to watch things at like 4 to 5 times speed. I know it's like way faster than most people, but even like speeding it up 1.5 is a way to like get through a lot of that. We found that depending on the task and the job that we were asking for, worked better for VAs. So if we could just record what we would want them to do, then they could watch it, then send back whatever information or problems or questions that they had. Then we could watch it at our leisure at whatever speed, and then just address it instead of like getting on a call and then going back and forth with it. Because I mean, we're friendly and we could talk for a long time. So we noticed like a lot of our VAs were just like hanging out, talking and asking them questions. We were like, this is not getting a lot of things done. So that's why we switched. So not on everything, but on some tasks.
So on the things that I could record, right?
Things that are going to be repetitive, where you go like, this is going to be every week. If it's a one-off where you're like, hey, can you do a video this week? And I want it to do whatever, you can jump on a call with them. But if it's like, hey, every week, I have this every day. Emails come in. I don't need to jump on a call with you every time. Just here's a recording. If you need to revert back to the video of like how to check the emails, because they come in every day. This is how I want them sorted. This is how I want them organized. Then I want one email from you to say like, what are the ones that I actually need to get back to? Which one of these are junk or non-essential? And then I can just move on with my day and like get all my time back, finding efficiencies in your own day. But I would say the tasks that are repetitive, try to record those so that the VA can go back to them. Anything that's a little bit more of a
What do
one-off.
you recommend for recording, like Loom or
I like
something
Zoom.
that?
I like Zoom and throwing it on YouTube because it's just easier for me to find and sort. It's
But
probably
Loom
not
works
the
too.
best.
I get
Yeah,
a lot
Loom.
of videos from Loom. Whatever you're familiar with is easy. Loom works
So
great.
Zoom or Loom, something where you can you upload that to YouTube on Zoom?
From Zoom, because
You
you
just have to
the
download
video.
it and then upload it. Loom is a faster process. Excuse me, because then you just give them the link after it's done.
Right.
But
right,
sometimes if
okay.
you make a whole bunch of Loom videos, it's hard to go back and sort those.
Very
Whereas
true.
YouTube, I'm so used to using it as like a video hosting thing that it's just I'm
Right.
very versed in it. That's why I'm still using it.
Well, this is stretching for me, guys. I just want you to know that I'm being stretched in my personal life on all fronts, and those aren't bad stretches, but they're developmental leadership stretches that I'm not used to. I'm working on systems with a cohort that's in my organization where I'm being pushed to do systems of outreach, systems of assimilation, and systems of worship. So we get systems down in our church to reach lost people, make disciples, and things like that. So since COVID, I'm being very stretched to change my way of doing what I've done for 30 years.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask as a follow-up question.
Yeah. So I'm really under the gun of change in my life, which is very humbling and very difficult and painful and humiliating to some degree. Like, why haven't I been doing this for 20 years, you know?
I'm only laughing because it's the same thing I'm going through.
Really?
Yes. This is kind of where this Unfrazzled Entrepreneur, this is a podcast that me and Ryan started. This is where this all came from. Is I also feel stretched, and I think it is because of the pandemic and big life changes. I've had some friends pass, and just like I also feel stretched on like every front. Even that my wife. Oh, this might be an aside, but Ryan, we had an update from the doctor. We have a direction to move forward. So I just want to say thank you to you and your wife, because now we can go that direction. But yeah, every area of my life, I feel like I'm stretched. It's just like, oh, all of this is new. And I also look back and go, why? How come I wasn't doing this differently a long time ago? I on that podcast episode, I talked about doing the burn. Like you're supposed to bounce, or you're supposed to bolt instead of bounce from your business. I don't ever feel like I bounced. I just feel like I was like built and burned and then moved on to the next thing, which is not the right way to operate, but it's just like that's how I operated for a long time. And I look back and go, there's so many ways that I could have like added that to my business, had a manager in place, even if it was difficult. Like it would have been bringing in a lot of revenue instead of just like gasoline match. What's next? Like that's not the right way to operate.
Well, this is encouraging for me to hear that I'm not the only one feeling this.
Oh, no, not at all.
That's what I was going to ask about the pandemic, because we are talking to not a ton of different pastors, but just even some of the pastors at our church, just like asking them. I haven't asked them that question. Like, do you think it's like post-pandemic stuff where it's just like things have happened and it's been so much shakeup that now it's like you have to figure out something new? Or do you feel like this is just a ramping up where like it's a growth thing, or the church is having struggles and it's just like a normal thing? Or is this a brand new thing due to the pandemic? Because I think
it's both.
I think the pandemic really did shake a lot of things up, and now I think
I think the pandemic,
state, you gotta have to figure it out.
The pandemic pushed people to do things they weren't used to doing, and now there's no going back. So therefore, we have to go forward with doing the things that we were pushed into with excellence that some of us are exhausted from. And we're trying to figure it out better, you know? I mean, I'll give you an example if you got a moment.
Yeah,
all right.
Sure.
So like when the pandemic came, there was a zillion churches that weren't even online. And there was a zillion churches that were online. Well, when people struggle to get online, they were thinking, wow, we've kind of like did this thing, we're online. Well, we were already online, and now we're thinking, we're thinking this isn't working, being online, while the people who thought being online is still working, I'm thinking it's not working anymore because it's not interactive. It's not, there's
community.
Isn't right. There's no community in just watching from your TV or your computer. So I'm not happy with that. So so right now we're moving in, we're trying to shift away from that so that maybe it's not live anymore, but it's on demand. And I'm trying to figure out how to connect people that are getting it on demand to community instead of, so those are just game changers, and they're just exhausting trying to figure out, and I have a heart for church planting. So I'm trying to figure out the next adventure that we could try to do to plant and start another church. So I think one of those is, I heard a guy speak from Berkeley, California about, he went online first, gathered a lot of people that were interested, then came together in community. Very intentional.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I like that model because you're attracting people to something they want. They connect with a leader, they connect with somebody, 15, 20 minutes. You build that up so that it's community online, and then say, hey, we're going to have a gathering of community in person. So when you're doing that kind of thing, you got to target a local geography, not just a broad band all over the world, all over the country, so you got to target locally your demographics, even though it's online so that's kind of a new way of thinking for me, but I'm stretched too much to go there with my creativity on it yet,
Yeah, this is very fascinating because I maybe not the demographic piece, but Ryan, I feel like you have done that. Like you had an online audience that kind of known each other through messaging. You see an avatar, a picture, but then like you had a meetup. I went to one that was in Texas, and then like seeing the people's in person and then connecting the dots of like, oh, this is that avatar. This is the person I've been connecting with. I actually have like a relationship with this person. I don't think Ryan did it intentionally like that, where it was like, hey, all these people are online are going to then get to know each other and then have the relationships. But it has turned into that. And I think that's why Ryan's group is so tight now. And their conferences, they call them family reunions now. I think if you did that intentionally, where you were more location based and just like, hey, I really want to hammer this area, however I get in front of them through ads or through whatever, make those people have those connections and then bring them in person. I think that is a pretty powerful way to have that, because I think it is uncomfortable for a lot of people to say hello and talk to each other face to face to originally build a relationship. But I think it's way easier online. If someone asks a question, then you just answer it, and it's not like a deep conversation you got to have, and you don't feel like you're sitting in front of somebody. But I think that builds into, then if you do see the person and you've had that connection, it's way easier to talk to them. And like you said, like building up that leader, if they see you online, it's much easier to approach you and just ask you a question through Facebook Messenger or even on a post. Then when they see you in person, they feel like they know you. Did you have ads that you were going to do that through? I don't know how to target people locally. Peter.
Oh, yeah, no, the guy that I was listening to, was what he was doing. He started in the pandemic. He was going to do a physical launch in October of 2020, but the pandemic shut the world down. So he decided, let me just start my church plant with my team now. So he did it online first in March, and he did that for over a year. And basically it was all pre-recorded. And it was 15, 20 minutes. It was like one song, a message, connection. And then they started having Zooms where people could gather and chat. And so it went from an audience that was interested, connecting, to Zoom, were participating, but all online. And then it finally launched into a physical place where they met. But he did like the Facebook thing, people found him all over the country, but he was demographically pushing it with like paid ad to the local geography of Berkeley, California, which I think was like, I don't know, he said like 2% Christian, the rest is unchurched,
Wow.
So yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's like an Asian world or something. That's just crazy. Isn't it? Yeah.
3% Christian. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, maybe 5%. I remember it was just crazy stuff.
That's
but
still small.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
and I'm a small church. I mean, I think I've been up to 90 at some point. I've been here 12 years, and then people come and go, and then I was probably pushing 65 people gathering before the pandemic, and then it fell out down to 25. Now we're pushing 60, 65 again, which is nice. But I want to reach more people, but I'm not doing well online yet because I don't have the time to work on that component yet, So yeah. This is fun, guys. This is more than just a VA talk, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. I love this. Love these type of strategies. And we can have Steve, we can have a Facebook group with all these pastors that are involved in the VA program, just all hanging out. Nothing doesn't have to be anything very structured. Just they could all share ideas of what's happening.
Yeah, I think one of the ideas that came to me a few minutes ago while you guys were talking was maybe I should email some of the pastors I know locally and say, hey, I'm considering doing this. Would you be interested if I'm successful at it? And what are some of the tasks you would like somebody to take off your shoulder?
Yes.
That would average $6 to $8 an hour.
That would be awesome.
15 or 20.
Yes.
And if I got some takers, maybe I should let you know about that without,
For sure. Okay.
I might have more guinea pigs with me. I guess.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, one of the ideas that me and Ryan were bouncing back and forth is should it be one VA per, or is there churches like your size that go, hey, we need a really good editor, we need a really good graphic designer, we need a really good this. Not one person is going to be a high level at all these things, but can we get a small team together and then say a couple of churches share that VA team? I just realized that most churches want to do the thing Saturday night for Sunday morning. So it had to be like, you have to get jobs in on time. Otherwise they're not going to get done.
I would say a little both. I would say I just want one person I can turn to, even if that's not the person who's going to follow through and execute.
One point of contact. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I don't want to have to contact a different person every time or every week.
Yep.
But that person don't need to be the person doing it. They're just responsible for seeing it through that it's done on the other end.
Oh, interesting.
I like that. A project.
So maybe it's a team. Yeah, team, and then each pastor gets its own person, and then say you only contact them at certain times, and they go, "Hey, I could actually take on another pastor." Then they're doing it that way. But the team, the people that are doing the work, they just get the jobs from the VA. So the VA listens to the pastor and then puts it in whatever standard procedure way, hands it to the team, and then it gets back to.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So in other words, it's just my contact, but I don't care if that person's getting the work done.
Sure.
But if I have a problem with the work that is done, I don't contact the person who did it because I don't necessarily know them.
Right.
Would you be open to changing the web host again and the email and the I know that's not, but I just think if you're going to build a team like that, I would like them to be very informed in whatever the software all those pastors are using, because I think it would make it easier for that group of pastors to go, and especially what Ryan was just saying, sharing information. Hey, on this program, I didn't know that this was.
I will make a deal with you.
I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, would you be open to that? Because I don't have a software. I don't have any idea how to
deal with you. I got a deal for you. Are you ready? All right. So I got this .org that I don't know what to do with. It used to point two URLs pointing to the same spot, but I dumped the org and I kept the com with the new website. I want the org to point to the new website, but I can't get it to do it because the company says only one URL. So I guess I'm going to have to park it. Well, I wouldn't care if I had in the background a .org being revamped and shadowing the content that's on the .com.
Can you just have it point, instead of pointing to it, can you just have a redirect?
Redirect. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I just can't figure that out yet. I'm just.
Are you where'd you get your domain from? What GoDaddy, HostGator?
No, mydomain.com.
Mydomain.com.
So it would probably be in mydomainname.com login.
Yeah, I have that access.
Wherever that is, you should be able to go in and manage that domain name and just and point to it. Should.
It's not happening.
Not happening.
My 23-year-old son couldn't figure it out.
Wow,
that's Dad. Huh. And he builds websites. He was
wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was done with it, So I guess what I'm saying is, instead of just parking.org, as part of an experiment, if we
to mirror everything on,
so in other words, if somebody went to .org by accident, at least they're not getting lost. They're seeing anything they would have saw at .com. And then along the way, I go, this is nice. I like this better. Then I can always shift away from .com.
Yeah, that'd be easy. Should be easy to do, because you could, in my Kartra site, Stephen, we can have like a mirrored sites very easy. And if you change like a little thing on one, it automatically changes it on the other without you having to change it in both places.
Do you think, as an idea, say there are 6 pastors that have small churches, is there a one Kartra cart or payment that can host all of those churches on, and then have the team just in control of that? So if the pastor goes, hey, I want
possibly,
okay. Or Kajabi or one program like that, where we go, hey, we love everything you're doing, but this is how we operate. We have this, and we understand this, and we have teams that are built around this. So if you'd like to change, because I think the VA that you're going to start with is going to do the graphics, the copy, the editing. They're going to do all that. I just think another pain point for pastors and working together is the software side of it, where it's like, hey, I have done this. This is the campaign that I run. This is how I do the brochures. This is how I do everything. And it's like, oh, I can do that too, because I have the same exact software, and the VA team that did it for you, they're going to understand exactly how to do it. I just need to change this, this, and this. So I think it would be more powerful to have a group of pastors on one software with a group of VAs, and then each person have their own individual VA that they can use as that, like,
contact, or
I don't know what that would necessarily be called. I want to call it tech support, but that's not really what you're looking for. You're looking for like a admin, essentially.
You're talking to Ryan. I'm hearing this.
Well, I'm talking to both of you. Ryan more for like the technical side of, because I want to hear if Ryan has a knee-jerk reaction to go like, we can't do that because of, and then I want to hear from you if that would be anything that you'd even be open to. But you saying that switching software is gonna be a nightmare again, you don't want to do that, so I go, okay, that's fine.
Well, I don't want to do it. I'm done. I mean, I spent too much time because I had nobody else to do it, so I don't want to do it.
You're saying it. Okay, so if Ryan and me have a solution, we go, hey, this is our solution. We will take your site, we'll mirror it over here, we'll do everything for you on this side, and then it's this software that you're using. If you ever want to not pay for the VA service, it's still your site on your whatever. It's just, we have the teams that understand this program, this software, and everything else. And then you want your website this way, you want the emails to go out this way, we can do all that, but it's our system because we have teams trained on this system. Because then you get one VA that can do the.
All right. So there's a financial component here too. So like what I'm saying is .org is doing me no good.
Yes.
But I've used .com for years. The only reason why I ended up with .org is so the pornography people wouldn't own it.
Ah, okay.
So if somebody went to .org instead of .com, they wouldn't see somebody's boobs hanging out. You know what I mean? No, I mean, that happened back in the day. I don't know if it still happens or not, but anyway.
Just another thing to worry about.
Oh man, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's
along with a million other things that you try to do.
Yeah. So I ended up having both domains point to one website.
Yeah.
And now I've got them pointing to 2 websites.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to point to 2. I want it to point to 1, but it could point to 2. One's an experiment that mirrors the same content, even though it looks different.
Yeah.
And then eventually I might say, I like that so much better. Let's just point both domains over here. But I don't know what I don't want to spend twice the money to do it. But if it's an experiment that trains people on your end and helps out, and it blesses me, and then I want to move over later, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
Yeah,
know
so
if
this
we
is definitely not
start-
anything to
yeah.
start with.
Oh, yeah.
This is like down
Right.
the line. But I was just wondering with Ryan, because he knows Kartra and Kajabi a lot more than me, if it could be where we say we have, hey, every 5 pastors, we want a new Kartra account and team. The team knows everything about Kartra. So if there's any questions on,
Sure.
the team will be able to do all of that. I don't know if that's even feasible. I don't know what the cost of that would be. I was just thinking it would simplify a lot of things and have the added layer of, if you run a campaign, if you do something, if the Easter Sunday service was crushing and you're like, hey, this is amazing, then everybody else that you're talking to that's in that little network could instantly mirror that, because the team would already know what to do. They go, oh, we did this exactly for Peter. All we have to do is change the names and the areas and then times, and then it's done. So I think that would drop the cost down a lot. Again, this is all super hypothetical. I don't know if this would work at all, but just hearing this idea and then me wanting to build a team of VAs that have a very specific understanding of whatever it is, and then have pastors work together, I think that would be very interesting.
let me tell you guys about something you might not know about, that I think this is sort of related. Okay. So I went to this presentation about a month and a half ago in Orlando. And these very, very wealthy entrepreneurs, I did not meet those people, but they were behind this meeting. And basically their brainstorming said that when people are looking for help, they go online before they go to a church.
Agree.
So if they're going to get divorced, or whatever they're going to do, they're drug addicts, whatever, they're depressed or lonely, they're going to go and they're going to look online for Google, whatever, right? So whenever people do that, they find, we can divorce you for $1,500. See
The
us,
gurus.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So they said, why don't we do something that makes a difference for the kingdom of God? And so these entrepreneurs came together with these tech companies, and they developed a campaign that's out there now, and it's going across America, and it's only promoting Jesus. It's not promoting any church. It's just promoting Jesus. And they're investing $100 million in North America to do this. And so I signed up my church to be part of the system that can catch people. And so and I'm telling you this for a reason, because I think you guys are on to something else here that relates to this. Okay. But the name of the company that I'm in right now is called Glue, GLOO.us. And Glue is kind of a vetter, so that when people type, I need help, I need to talk to someone, I'm suicidal, whatever they're doing, I want to talk to someone, they get that information. They determine, is this bogus or is this real? Oh, wow. And then if it's real, they say, what church do we have in that zip code that we can redirect this to?
That's awesome.
Oh, it's pretty. Yeah, we've got 4 or 5 people so far. It's just in this brand new stage in March. Now we're in April. Now we're almost in May. And so they're doing billboards, campaigns, TV ads. They're going everywhere. And I can't remember that. You go to jesushasthis.com or something. And then whatever you fill out, you're going to end up in that system that gets filtered to churches across America that are coming on board with this.
That's so cool.
What you guys are doing is you're thinking the same way that these entrepreneurs were, but not about reaching lost people, but about how can we take a group of people to take the heaviness off of this digital age that has just swallowed up pastors that aren't equipped and aren't ready and don't know how to deal with. They're not the 500 to 1,000 mega church. They're the small community church that can't keep up with the wave of technology. And how can we come alongside them and bless them? Because they can't afford the $15 to $20 sharp young guy in their office taking care of this. But we can pull a team of sharp people in the Philippines together who can do it for a fraction of the money and take the burden off them and help them move ahead.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's what you're really doing for me by saying this stuff, for what that's worth.
Yeah, because I want to give pastors their time back to do what pastors are supposed to be doing. I don't think you should be writing a bulletin. I don't think you should be writing an email. I don't think you should be sitting at your desk for 12 hours trying to figure out how to edit a video.
We should be praying, fasting, and preaching.
My pastor used to go to Pastor Ed. He used to have candy in his hand for the children to come shake when he shook their hand. He used to go to hospitals all the time and nursing homes and go to people's houses. Like, that's what my pastor, when I was like 4 or 5. I just remember that's what he was doing. He was like never at the church. That people would complain that he's not at the church enough, and he'd be like, "Well, I'm out doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing out in the street." So it was always fascinating to me to hear that. Now I see like pastors are bogged down by our pastors. Like, they've got a million different things that they're trying to do with the banners and the this, and it's just like, I don't think this is what the church body should be doing.
That's another good. Let me give you another illustration. In our staff meeting, my staff is volunteers. Not paid staff, but they're still my staff, my team. And so we said, hey, we need those banners on the side of the road, right? So I thought, I think I got something at a conference, and I looked at it, it was way too expensive. So I started searching until I could find a banner company. And then it needed, I wanted to say welcome, and I wanted my logo on it with the time. That was what we decided. Welcome 10:30, right? So if I had a VA that I could have just said, I need to find the most affordable banner.
And give them a price range just from here to here. Then they could have looked it up. They could have called. They could have done all that stuff.
Now they could have had the whole thing done for me and say, "Can I have your green light on this?" Yes. And I wouldn't have had to done anything but email a VA.
Exactly. Yep. For sure.
But instead, I've spent probably 2 hours on that project over the last 2 weeks
with frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to take time to train me. I mean, sir, I'm serious about that. Train me.
That's why the Facebook group could be very helpful, Stephen. Having a group of all the pastors that are the clients in there and having some ongoing training. Like, so as Peter gets along, maybe 2 months down the road, we get on a call with him and record it. And like, he's helping
exactly what you just said about the banner. I used to
the other pastors.
Exactly. And it was so difficult for me to offload this, and I couldn't understand how to. And I took a long time to really relate to my VA. But now I see, if you take the time up front, because this is another thing, even Ryan, you said this to me about Jenny, but it's not just Jenny. That's the only name that's coming to me. But there's a lot of people that just like, I know I need a VA. I want a VA. I just can't figure out how to train the VA to do what I want, understand how to do it. And I always tell those people, like, it takes time. It's not like you hire them, the job is handed off, and you're done forever. It's like, you're hiring a person. They're not a robot. They're going to have a lot of ideas. They're going to have shortcuts. They're going to say, hey, instead of paying me this amount to do this, if I just did this, where I start with the research, I can speedline everything, and then you can take off the job that you like to do. Then that's how you work with them. Because our VAs, we had a large VA team, and it was like the original idea that me and Nathaniel, my brother, started with, to where it was like after 6 months was wildly different. Then a year, it was like, oh, this is a whole different business. This is not what we came into, but our VAs really helped craft this. So that's why I said, like, what you're doing now, if you have SOPs, they can start doing those. If banners is something that you do like once in a blue moon for 2 hours, but doing that type of research and calling the people is something that a VA does all the time. They're going to get very good at it. They're going to know exactly what price you want to pay. They're going to know how to negotiate into whatever you got going on. They're going to know that it's a church and this is how we operate. They're going to pick all that up. Whereas you're a pastor, you have to preach on Sunday. you're not just worried about that banner. You're worried about a billion other things.
Right.
That banner is not of importance.
I think this is definitely a relational thing on the end of somebody here with you guys that's North American Christian and somebody on the other side. I mean, those two people need to be able to form something. And then once this thing gets cracking and new people come into it, then I think it could take off, Hopefully I'm the right person that can benefit from and be helpful to it. But I don't know. I mean, I need somebody to tell me, take this off my back. I mean,
so maybe it is like you talked about training you. I do think me and Ryan talked about having a little Facebook group of like pastors, and I was like, I don't know how that's really beneficial to, like, if you have a VA, then what else do you need? But I didn't see it from the pastor's point of view of like this. You probably never had a VA before, so you don't really know like what they can do, what they're capable of doing, or how they do it, or how many hours this thing should take. But that's why I said I think maybe you're a good person, because if I'm not a brand new pastor, but I'm brand new to having a VA.
Right.
What do I offload? Like, I don't even understand how to even offload this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
We're excited about this. Stephen and I have come up with a wingman VA pastor service. We want to get pastors time back for them so they can do what they are called to do. We want to help you get your time back. So click the link below to get your free download.